All right. Let's start off by saying Barakate Hawa, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Evidence Keeps on Stacking. And pretty much what we're talking about is America being Babylon the Great. Everything ties to it. You know, all of the prophecies are coming out like they said, like the Lord said they would. And you have more and more people out there, so-called Christians or whatever, talking about America being Babylon the Great. Now, we've been on YouTube going back to the summer of 2007, which is about the second week of July 2007. And this July that just passed made about, I believe, 16 years. So we got 16 plus years, you know, Great Millstone being on YouTube. Now you had Israelite groups on there prior to Great Millstone, but you know, the prophecies didn't really start rolling out until the Spirit had us go on there, because you had some individuals, you know, putting out, you know, 10-minute lessons, and then if you wanted to get more, you had to pay them to get the rest of the breakdown, or buy a DVD or VHS, whatever they were selling back then. You know, they were selling the breakdowns. But then, when the Spirit got on us to get on there, we started doing it for free, and that messed up, you know, the merchandise of certain individuals out there. Scripture say, "Freely you have received, freely give." And you know, these Christians, what they do is, if you come up with something, the Spirit shows you something, and you put it out there, they'll act like they came up with it, but then they'll put different spins to it, you know, to make it seem like, you know, that they really didn't get it from us. You know, so there's a lot of charlatans out there, a lot of these so-called Christian groups, especially Edomites, because Jake don't really go, you know, get deep unless they, you know, learn that they're Israelites. You know, they, for the most part, Jake out there in the churches, they don't get deep. It's really Esau. Whenever you get any type of information, scholars, you know, commentators, it's usually Edomites, you know, that put these things together. Because Jake really ain't into the scriptures like that. They into the Most High as far as, you know, having that zeal. But as far as getting into the knowledge and the mysteries of these scriptures, they don't get into it. Now, this lesson is pretty much based around an article that I found, and I think I may have sent it to a couple of brothers. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to put it in the description box. Lord's will, if I remember, I will. But if I don't remember, just type in God's directions for FOR life, and then type in Mystical Babylon. Mystical being MYSTICAL, and then Babylon. So God's directions for life, Mystical Babylon. And pretty much this is a Christian site, and they talk about the mysticism or the mystical Babylon, which is spoken of in the book of Revelation. Now, when you look up the word mystical, it's pretty much summarized around the mystery religions of ancient Babylon. So there would be a place set up today that would incorporate all of the mysticisms, all of the teachings, all of the religious rites of ancient Babylon. Okay? And that would be today America. Because when you look at the whole scheme of things, what nation is the world following after? From the way they construct their buildings, to the way they set up their entertainment, to the way they, you know, set up their corporations, to the way that they, you know, have businesses in their countries that mimic American, you know, businesses, so on and so forth. All right, so we're going to start off with the introduction. All right, introduction says, Mystical Babylon is revealed in the book of Revelation. One can learn a lot concerning the prophecy of Babylon given in the Old and New Testaments and equate it to modern day happenings. And that is true, because we're dealing with prophecies, but we also dealing with the scriptures, all right, which the prophecies come from the scriptures. And when we read Romans 15:4, right, it says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So there are certain things that are written in the Old Testament that we can use today, as examples for comfort, as examples for, prophecies that's being fulfilled, so on and so forth. So going back to the article, it says, Prophet Isaiah wrote the burden, prophecy against, of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see, Isaiah 13:1, which we go to Isaiah 13 a whole lot. The prophet's first message was delivered against Babylon. It was not. He may have thought it was against Babylon, but the message of Isaiah 13 chapter, Isaiah 47 chapter, Isaiah 14 chapter were not directed at ancient Babylon. They were directed to the new Babylon, which would be later on thousands of years in the future. Probably around a good 2,700 years, 2,800 years in the future, depending on where you date the time of the prophet Isaiah. Pretty much more so probably 27, 26, because Isaiah was around during the Babylonian Empire. Okay. So he may have thought it was dealing with ancient Babylon, but it wasn't dealing with ancient Babylon, just based off of the wording, based off of the gathering of the troops of the nations, gathering of, the military of the Lord, which are the outside of the troops, but also the missiles. The way that it's going to be destroyed, this great fire that's going to come upon it, the Medes being the so-called Russians today, and the way they're going to destroy this place like the Lord destroyed Sodom, Gomorrah, and the other cities. It says the prophet's first message was delivered against Babylon. It was not. The very nation that would eventually carry Judah into captivity. No, this is dealing with today. In speaking the words of the Lord, Isaiah pronounced a heavy sentence on Babylon, which really is for America, that it would sink into utter destruction, which is also noted as a destiny of mystical Babylon. But the destiny was already set up for mystical Babylon, because ancient Babylon didn't fall into utter destruction. It was I guess you could call it a hostile takeover. When Darius the Mede came into Babylon and took over the drunken king regent and the drunken lords and their wives, and he pretty much just took them over. All right, see, a hostile takeover allows a bidder to take over a target company whose management is unwilling to agree to a merger or takeover. The party who initiates a hostile takeover bid approaches the shareholders directly. Well, pretty much, let's see. Some notable holders, Kraft Foods. Okay, this is going into business. Let me see. Yeah, so it just goes, the hostile takeover part just goes into, they'll tell you about business. But pretty much he just took them over. All right. It wasn't no war, there was no, arrows shot or catapults, or sieges or any of that. It was just a takeover. All right. Now going back to the article, then it says mystical Babylon, glory of kingdoms. The prophet Isaiah revealed Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And what you would have to do is you would have to go back, and it gives you Isaiah 13 and 19, and you would have to go back to the ancient times of how Sodom and Gomorrah were taken down. And they were taken down by fire that came down from heaven, to destroy those cities. All right? All right, that's a whole lot of... Right, Genesis 18 and 27. And Abraham answered and said, behold, now I have taken appoint me to speak unto the Lord, which, okay, that's going into something else. You could go to Genesis 19 and it goes into the history of that. But I'm trying to see if there's a particular word that's in my head. I'm trying to see if I could find the precept that that I'm looking for. Malachi 4 is good. Just bear with me. All right, so let's just go to Malachi 4 because I thought there was something else, but there's not. Malachi 4, I'm sorry, 4 and 1 is a representation of today. All right, and when this is about to happen, the before it can happen, the Lord would gather the elect of the nation of Israel from the four corners of the earth by the word first. And what would be used is a man that the scriptures call the prophet Elijah, which would come later, in the history to build back up the tabernacles of David that were fallen. All right. And that happened during, it happened from the 30s, 40s, 50s, so on and so forth. But a major part of that prophecy happened in the late 60s. When there was a man by the name of Elder Abba Bivens, however you want to pronounce it, that pretty much was the only individual back then that was called a rabbi, that was going into both the Old and New Testament. All right. And he's the one that the Lord used to open up this truth. And it just so happened to open up in Harlem, New York. And from that point, from that small area, and from that one man, it became such a great thing as we see today worldwide. Because he had a lot of disciples under him, but he chose only 3 of them. King Masha, High Priest Ariah, and High Priest Yaquah. And from that point, they opened up what would be known as 1 West, 125th Street. And from that point on, you see the great, teachings that are going around the world. When people talk about the Hebrew Israelites, they're not talking about anybody else but what they call the 1 Westers. And whatever splinter group broke off from that. All right? So Malachi 4 and 1 is the precursor, of what's going to happen, or is once the children of Israel would get the message, then eventually the destruction would come. All right, so Malachi 4:1, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Right. So this is what's coming for what? Babylon the Great, which is America. So going back to the article, it says, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Isaiah closed this chapter in speaking the words of the Lord, revealing that Babylon would be destroyed, never to be rebuilt, remain desolate, and never inhabited again. And that does not apply to ancient Babylon, because you still have people that live in those areas. Apostle Peter revealed what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, and the Most High turned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, destruction, making them an example to those that afterward should live ungodly. 2 Peter 2 and 6. A warning that has gone unheeded as we are seeing the evilness of Sodom and Gomorrah flourishing once again. And we see that happening all over the place. And it's to the point now that they're force feeding people that. You have to accept it in these people's eyes. It's not bad enough that they're doing some wicked stuff, deviant sexual acts, but they want to force it on people. They're not even allowing people to choose if they want to do it or not. They're forcing it down people's throats, and if people don't want to accept it, they looking at them sideways. You see? As to one time it was looked at as a filthy, disgusting thing, which it still is, but in the eyes of the world, the majority of the world now has accepted it because it's been gradually shoved down people's throats. So much so that it's in all TV shows, it's in everything. Movies, everything. You know, I used to watch a series called Last Kingdom, I believe it's called. You know, with Uhtred and all that. And that was a bad series. They had 5 seasons. That was a bad series. You know, and then what they did to cap it off and finalize it was they did a movie to finish it off. And in the movie, they showed more shit. You know? It's like, goddamn, man. The whole show from beginning to end, all the episodes and all the seasons, not once did they show any of that madness. But all of a sudden, now the movie, the thing to close it off, they have to have that in there. You know? But then it says Babylon cut off. Yeah, because there's an immorality that's being pushed on the planet by this place called Babylon the Great in Scripture, which is America. Because all nations are following behind that. It says, Isaiah wrote, for I raise up against them, said the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and remnant, and son, which says offspring, and nephew, prosperity, saith the Lord, Isaiah 14:22. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground, there is no throne. O daughter of the Chaldeans, for you shall no more be called tender and delicate, pampered, Isaiah 47:1. And these are all things that pertain to America, descriptions of America, Babylon the Great, because it says the daughter of Babylon. Isaiah, in speaking the words of the Lord, revealed that Babylon was as a deposed queen who can do no more than sit in the dust, for she is no longer the mistress of kingdoms. This same imagery is found in the New Testament concerning mystical Babylon, which what Isaiah was speaking pertained to America. It didn't pertain to ancient Babylon. All right? It pertains to America today. So going on, it says mystical Babylon revealed. It says the first reference to mystical Babylon is found in the book of Revelation. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Revelation 14:8. Babylon was famous for its pride and haughtiness, its tyranny and cruelty, with its name signifying confusion. Right, because Babylon goes back to the Hebrew word Babal, which means confusion. It drew others into the pleasures of this world. Its deceit of unrighteousness, drawing others into its practice as well. Which this individual, whether he's doing it on purpose or not, he's trying to say that ancient Babylon, fits ancient Babylon. It doesn't fit ancient Babylon, because he makes a distinction now and says modern day Babylon. You know? So it says some have suggested that the mystical, so if it says some have suggested, that means this individual has been watching in order for him to make that statement. He didn't come up and say, you know, from my readings and my understanding, this is talking about a mystical Babylon today. No, he said some have suggested, meaning he's watched or read or looked at something that through their suggestions made him go back and do research. So that some have suggested that mystical Babylon could represent America. And it does. Not could, it does. When you put everything together prophecy-wise. You know, but by something called the process of elimination. It says, called the modern day Babylon, which is America. It is frightening to note this nation openly endorses a Sodom and Gomorrah lifestyle, spreading its ungodliness to other nations of the world, promoting the very thing the Most High's word condemns. See? So when we go to something called Americanization, you could go back. This is all dealing with Esau. Hellenization was Esau under the Greeks. Romanization was Esau under the Romans. Americanization is Esau under the banner of so-called America. So it says Americanization is the influence of American culture and business. By the way, this is from Wikipedia. It says Americanization is the influence of American culture and business on other countries outside the United States of America, including their media, cuisine, business practices, popular culture, technology, or political techniques, and also going into lifestyles, immoral lifestyles. Some observers have described Americanization as synonymous with progress and innovation. And you can read more of this. We've gone into this before. All right? Just type in Americanization, go to the Wikipedia one, and it'll bring it out. And all you have to do is look at the American standards and look at the world standards. You have Hollywood, right? You go to India, you have something called Bollywood. I told this one chick I was dealing with, yeah, they have a Bollywood in India. She said, "Get out of here," and I just left it at that. I didn't even prove it to her. I was all right, whatever. So you have Hollywood. In India, you have Bollywood. In Nigeria, you have Nollywood. Based off of what? The American Hollywood way, which is set up Hollywood, which is Hollywood, is where you get the witch's wand from. Because they cast spells on people through Hollywood, through their media, through their color lights that hypnotize. All right, then it goes into business and brands. And you can see that McDonald's everywhere, Burger King's everywhere. Then you look at the buildings, skyscrapers. Where did skyscrapers come from? Well, the first skyscraper came from an insurance company in Chicago, which all the buildings back then were about 3 stories high. This building, this insurance building, which was the tallest in the world at the time, was 10 stories high. And from that point, that set up the what's the word I'm looking for? The blueprint for skyscrapers. Where did that come from? America. You go to China, you go to Singapore, you go to Japan, you go to all these different countries around the world where they got skyscrapers, Dubai, all them places. Where did they get that from? America. Babylon the Great. This is why, let's go real quick to Revelation 17. And before I read that, since another precept came to mind, let's go to that one. These are scriptures you brothers that have been studying know already. The brothers that the teachers know already. Okay. So let's go back. Okay, I put Isaiah. I don't know if I said Isaiah, but I meant to say Jeremiah. Let me see if it's this one here. Yep, Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon, which is dealing with America, Babylon the Great, hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. So how did they make all the earth drunken? By that cup that she has, which is all of the immorality and business aspects and religious aspects and political aspects that they push on the world. And they made the nations drunken. Because it says that the nations that are drunken, therefore the nations are mad. Meaning they're totally gone. They've left the heads of them have left off their ancient customs to follow the American customs. Because when you go around the world, the majority of these world leaders wear what? Suit and ties. Which when you go to the Middle East, they wore garbs, they wore long robes and things of that nature. But now all of those so-called world leaders are all wearing suit and tie, just like America. It says the nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. It's right there. It says Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. Right, balm represents what? It represents healing ointment. You can't heal this place. There's not a stimulus package big enough to heal America, to get America out of this crisis that it's in. because these are the birth pains of the deterioration and destruction of America. These are the signs that Yahweh Shai said we would be looking for. Didn't he say, watch as well as pray? You know, you're not going to get every little detail, but if the Spirit is working with you, you'll be able to see and look on the world stage and see things happening and tie it back to the scriptures. It says we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Why? Because it's meant for her to go down. We're at the point now where Yahweh Shai is coming back to claim his throne. And the last people that would be ruling are the Edomites, which by process of elimination and scriptural prophecy and scriptures is dealing with the so-called white man, beginning with the international bankers and everywhere around the world where the Edomites are. And not just because you're a white-looking person means that you're an Edomite. All right? An Edomite is based upon his father. If their fathers and fathers' lines go all the way back to the Edomites, to Esau, then they are Edomites. But if you happen to have a white-looking person, but their line goes back to so-called Negroes or Latinos or Native American Indians, then chances are that you are an Israelite, if it goes back to the right line. You have this one female on one of those shorts, and it says to those of you that claim that they're all, I forget how it's put. How do you explain this? And pretty much she looks like a white girl, blonde hair, the regular phenotype of Esau, but her father is a so-called black man, which makes her an Israelite. You see? So you can't just go by the color of a person. That's what the scriptures say, try the spirit, whether they are of the Most High or not. Because you have a lot of so-called white-looking people out there that are really Israelites. Just like you have a lot of so-called black-looking and Latino-looking and Native American Indian-looking people out there that are really Edomites. And then it goes into a whole plethora of nations. Because Israel has been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So this is why the Lord got to come and do the sifting and gather out the Israelites from among all these different nations. All right? It says, for her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies, right? Because America is at the pinnacle of their iniquities, and the Lord is he's about ready to take this place out. And this is why Yahweh Shai said, when the disciples asked him, what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world or the end of the age? He told them, when you shall see these different signs, then you know that I'm near. Some of these things are going to be the beginning of sorrows, but then you know that I'm near. You see, wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes and pestilence, and and all of that. Pretty much we got uproars of the people. We have everything that the Lord spoke about thousands of years ago happening right now on the world scene. All right? So now let's go from there to Revelation 17. We'll start at 1. It says, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now this great whore, right, is America, right? Which, when we go to the book of Nahum was dealing with the destruction of ancient Assyria, but it applies to America today because they've taken on all of the customs and religious rites of all these different nations and put it all into one, hodgepodge of beliefs, and impressed it upon the world. Right? It says, this is Nahum 3 and 4. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot. See? The mistress of witchcraft. And when you look up this word mistress, it's just a feminine way of saying master. And America has mastered the art of, all these different nations and their beliefs and their worships and the witchcraft that they were into. Everything is, all of the so-called magic and the magicians and all of it, they've incorporated it all into one hodgepodge. This is why. This is one of the reasons why America is called Babylon the Great. The word Babylon means confusion. Now, when you look up the word mistress, the word there is Ba'ilah with a ha at the end. The way to say Mr. or master is Ba'il. But this is mistress, which is Ba'ilah, which is a ha at the end. Right? And it means mistress, female owner. Sorceress, necromancer. See? And a necromancer is one a necromancer is one that consults with the dead. All right? And she is the mistress of witchcraft because she has mastered the ways of witchcraft. In America, when you look into the origins of it, it goes back to witchcraft, masonry, which basic masonry is nothing wrong with it, dealing with, because it's about building, it's about, the compass and the square. But then you have speculative masons, which are those that don't know the difference between a compass and a square, don't know anything about, building. They just are using that as a form of for them to worship their witchcraft rites. You go back to the beginning of the inception of Esau in America, and you have the presidents that some of them were Freemasons, some of them wore the regalia. So and others were just demons anyway. All right. So we have the word witchcrafts, which the word witchcrafts is the word kashap, sorcery, witchcraft. Then it says magic. All right. That's why I call her the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms. All right. Let me read that again. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face. Right, just like the Lord did it to ancient Nineveh, he's doing it to America today. And I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And this is why a lot of these nations are opting out of the US dollar. The only reason why they still comply to a certain degree is because they still want to be able to sell their wares here in America. But they're still going on forward with, another form of currency, which would be the BRICS. Which you have a lot of nations joining the BRICS nations. And the BRICS nations were the first 5 foundations of it, which represents Brazil, it represents Russia, India, China, and South Africa. All right, those 5. And they have, the BRICS currency, so on and so forth, that they're putting into place. Because they're getting tired of this whole. It says, and I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and set thee as a gazing stock. Yeah, because eventually this place is going to be set as a gazing stock when the Lord destroys this place. Now the word gazing stock is ra'ayah, which goes back to the word see, looking, appearance, seeing, sight, spectacle. All right, so going back to Revelation chapter 17, the many waters that the great horse sits upon are peoples and nations and multitudes and tongues. You could read further down in the chapter and get that breakdown. All right, verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And this is why she is known as the mistress of witchcraft. She's pushed her whoredoms, and all of this their belief system upon the world and these nations, beginning with their kings, their leaders, have been the ones to introduce the ways of America into the population of their country. That's why it says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Because those same leaders pushed the American ways on their people so they could receive the benefits from America. You see? And they became totally corrupt, just like this place is totally corrupt. All right? So now let's go back to this. Let's see. I'm going to go back to this where it says modern day Babylon, the article. It says other nations have let down their guard as well, allowing a similarity to Babylon to fester in their nation. If continued unabated, will they not suffer a similar fate as that of the mystical Babylon? No, they're going to get jacked up because they're going to be brought down, but no one is going to suffer what America is going to suffer, except for America, Babylon the Great, and the land of Israel today, because the Lord has to clean that land up because it's filthy, it's polluted. All right, and it goes on, you know, they go off, of course, the whole, the very foul spirit. It's not talking about what they're saying, it's talking about. It says nations committing fornication, be not partakers. So, you know, part of it goes off, part of it is on point. They tell you there's going to be destroyed, but they don't tell you how because they don't know, or either they do know and they don't want to say because then that'll really give it away who they got it from, you know, so on and so forth. So I have this other article here. It's called Finding Hope Because We Care. It's Finding Hope Ministries. It says Nimrod, Semiramis, and the Mystery Religion of Babylon. I'm only going to read a little bit of this. You know, and like I said, if I remember, I'll put some of these in the description box so you brothers can have it, you know, if you want to do more research on it. But it says the first book of the Bible introduces this wicked man and his kingdom, dealing with Nimrod. That goes back to Genesis, the 10th chapter. Nimrod, which was the son of Cush, you know, he was the first one to really establish, you know, that whole demonic witchcraft worship. And that was like one of the centers of all where all this comes from. It says centered in Babel. The last book of the Bible, chapters 17 and 18, describes the Most High's utter destruction of Babylon in the last days. Right. And that's exactly what it's talking about. And that's that Babylon, which they call mystical Babylon, is America, Babylon the Great. The prophetic destruction includes the wicked city itself, as well as the rebellious region it generated. This article will focus initially on the Nimrod's wife, Semiramis. Right, and everything that you see centered around female worship, Queen of Heaven worship, all goes back to Semiramis. All right, these are all fables, you know, that have been pushed upon the world, mythologies that have been pushed upon the world, based upon actual people. It says, as she was instrumental in the formation of the wicked mystery religion of Babylon, it will then explain how Nimrod's father, Cush, and ultimately Nimrod himself were incorporated into this system of worship. Euhemerus was an ancient Greek mythographer, which means a writer of fables or writer of myths, who lived around 300 BC. He wrote that gods and their associated legends arose from the deification of dead human heroes, and that's exactly what it is. This is where they started to build those fables from. And this is why the Apostle Paul and others, and Peter and them, they were saying, you know, don't follow these cunningly devised fables. Because that's exactly what they are. Cunningly devised fables. You know, whether they were, you know, fables from the Israelites themselves, or whether they were Greek myths, you know, or Roman myths, or myths of the other nations. Because remember, these things have been around for centuries, for millennials, you know. And all that they did was, when Christianity came to be, you know, the so-called Christianity we know today is nothing more than lightly veiled paganism. You know, this is why they have all of that crap in it. This is why when Sarnetter first came down to 34th and 7th, he tried to bring out that virgin birth stuff. Well, y'all borrowed that from Kemet, you know, virgin birth. So we don't teach that. That's not that's not in the Bible. He quickly shut up and didn't say shit and waited for polite to get there. You see? Because he thought he had an ace in the hole, but that shit was, you know, that shit was nothing but a joker. This is one legend of ancient history regarding Semiramis described Nimrod meeting Semiramis while she was a brother owner in Uruk, whatever that means. This probably occurred when Nimrod was consolidating his control over that city. The history of Queen Goddess as prostitutes, brothels owner, which goes into mistress, is not the or madam, is not the material of good legends. Therefore, subsequent legends arose which portrayed her as a mythic fertility goddess and mother of the gods, right? Because all of that shit that you see about the worshiping of the woman and all that, that all goes back to whoredom. That all goes back to sexual depravity, adultery, Moism and all of that. So they couldn't sell that to devout followers, so they had to sell it in the form of, oh, it's a fertility goddess, a mother of the gods, and people would eat it up. It says, all attempts to trace the origin of goddess worship led ultimately to one single woman of ancient history, Semiramis. If you want to know the origins of all these different pagan holidays and worships and virgin births and all of that, you need not look any further than Semiramis. She promoted deification of Nimrod and herself after his death. God's judgment and Nimrod's execution forced a mystery religion, which is what they're following today. This is why America is known as Babylon the Great. They're following the mystery religions of all those different nations back then. Let's see. Let me see if this will come up. Oh, let's see. Let's see. What is mystery? No, what is the oldest mystery religion? All right. Let me see something. Let me see what I'm just curious. All right, mystery religion, meaning a religion centered on secret or mystical rites for initiates, especially any of a number of cults popular during the late Roman Empire, right? Going all the way back to the beginning. All right, so let's see. Going back to the article, its adherents realized the danger of practicing their religion in the public domain. Hence, the name Mystery Religion of Babylon refers to its secretive nature. And when you go back to the scriptures, Jake was doing this in secret. You go to 2 Kings 17. You go to Ezekiel the 8th chapter. Those men were doing it secretly. And in Ezekiel the 8th chapter, the thing about that is that you actually had a mention of Nimrod and Semiramis, which they were son and mother, and they had sex together, and it mentions about their son that they had, which is known as Tammuz. And there's a whole history behind that, or mythology behind that, to where Nimrod was fighting with this particular god, and the god chopped him up. Set, he was fighting with him, and he chopped him up and threw him in the river Styx, and Semiramis came back and found all of the parts of Nimrod except for his rod, and that's why they erected, the obelisk in commemoration of his rod. And this is why when you go to the Roman Catholic Church out there in what is that? Is that Saint? No, that's not Saint Petersburg. Saint Peter's Square. Yeah, Saint Peter's Square out there in Rome. You have an obelisk, propped up in the center of them, with a circle around it, which is the circle of the sun, which represents the generating principle of life, which means the rod having sex with the vagina and worshiping what comes out of that creation, which is the offspring. It's the whole, that's what they worship. So Ezekiel 8 and 13, he said also unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. All right, so Tammuz, which was the son of Semiramis and Nimrod, is mentioned in scripture. And why were they weeping for him? Because you know, that was their whole thing where he got put to death, you know, and then, you know, his mother didn't find anything but the rock. You know, it's like a whole, because Tammuz is the so-called reincarnated uh, uh, Nimrod. It's a whole bunch of madness behind that. So it says Thamawaz, Tammuz, sprout of life, a Sumerian deity of food or vegetation. See, going back to ancient Sumer. Then it says a Phoenician deity, Tammuz, and you can search Tammuz for yourself. Go to the Google and type in Tammuz, and you'll see all different type of stuff come up on him, and it should send you right back to ancient Babylon, you know, to Nimrod, Semiramis, so on and so forth. All right, let me see. Who is Tammuz in the Bible? Tammuz or Dumuzid is a Mesopotamian fertility god known as the shepherd, often associated with agricultural fecundity and health and the abundance of milk and dates. You know, because they give they give them, you know, all that crap, them different names. You know, this god for this crop, this god for that, this god for rain, this queen god for so and so and such and such. Right. So it says, what did Ishtar do to Tammuz? Ishtar, growing envious, orders him killed. Without Tammuz, the earth dries up and people go hungry until Ishtar descends into the underworld to humbly petition her forbidding sister Alatu for Tammuz's release. Alatu agrees on the condition that he returns to her for 6 months each year, autumn and winter. This is madness. But this is what they worship. This is why you have the virgin birth, which is total madness. And that's what they push in these churches, the Christian church. This is what Vocab believes. Vocab believes in myths. He likes telling fables. You know, you should woke up after you found out that the tooth fairy wasn't real, unless he still believes in the tooth fairy. Vocab. The tooth fairy. Oh man. Let's see if we got anything else. Yeah, and it goes on to a lot more. So like I said, if I remember, I'll put these in the description box, you know, so brothers can you know, if they want to just read a little more or whatever. But you know, those are the main points. Like when we do research, we just get the information we need just to prove what the scriptures say, you know, and that's pretty much it, you know. I mean, if you learn a little more, that's good. But you know, remember, all things are not edifying. Do all things unto edification. Everything has knowledge, but the best thing to do is do lessons that are going to be unto edification. And this is what the vibration that the world is under, that Queen of Heaven vibration. That's why you have feminism. That's why you have these women running rampant, because they drank the Kool-Aid and they became, you know, hypnotized by the wiles of Esau. You know, and now that they're finding out that shit ain't so sweet on the other side, the grass ain't greener on the other side, now they want to boo-hoo and want you to feel sorry for them. Like that chick, whatever was her name, Cassie or whatever her name is, that's suing P. Diddy for raping her or whatever the case may be. You know, what you want us to feel sorry for you? We don't feel sorry for you. You chose that lifestyle, so fuck you, and fuck that Mo. All right, fuck them both. Gonna come out there, oh, you know, oh, shut the hell up. You chose that. You went that direction. That's what you wanted. You know. But now all of it, I'm not talking about that bullshit. Anyway, with that, you know, I pray that your brothers and sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say Shalom. It just goes to show you that, you know, all of this information that has been being pushed by the Israelites is taking root worldwide. You know, and it's not something that these devils are coming up with. You know, it's something that the Israelites are bringing out. And you did have some individuals back then, like Armstrong and them, that were bringing out, you know, clues and hints that America was Babylon or something along those lines. But this thing really got cemented through the Israelites that they call one Westers or black, whatever you want to call it, but it's the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites from the former One West school. All right? So with that, I pray that you brothers and sisters have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.